I am excited to stand alongside Senator Lashrecse Aird and Delegate Paul Krizek to announce that we have agreed to a proposal that will create a safe, legal, and well-regulated cannabis market here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, with recreational sales beginning on July 1st, 2027. We will do it in a way that protects consumers, tamps down with the goal of eliminating the illicit market with clear enforcement and regulatory authority, and it creates a more competitive market for small businesses and farmers. The budget proposal put forth by the House of Delegates outlines the specifics, and the patrons will be discussing the bill in more details in a moment. But before I turn it over, I'd like to say that Senator Aird, thank you, Senator Aird and Delegate Krizek have been fantastic partners throughout this whole process. And that is because we have always shared the same priorities and goals for this marketplace, including measures to keep our kids safe once the marketplace is open. It's important to all of us that retailers don't advertise to young people that they comply with the new laws in place about selling to minors. And I cannot overstate how collaborative and engaged Senator Aird and Delegate Krizek have been with me and my entire team. After I sent back amendments to the initial bill, we began talking in earnest about how to get this bill over the finish line. And this is what good governing and collaboration looks like: bringing people together, listening carefully, focusing on solutions that are practical, enforceable, and in the best interests of Virginians. I appreciate these legislators working with me to create a regulatory framework that Virginians can trust. And in the end, we all wanted to deliver a marketplace that the Commonwealth could implement effectively for the long term. We have always had this same end goal, an end goal that has been years in the making. So I am proud to stand alongside these dedicated legislators and to be working alongside them to deliver a marketplace built to last. Virginians have been waiting a long time for policymakers and a governor who wanted to do this and get it right. And today we are taking an important step forward. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Senator Lashrecse Aird.
Good morning. I am Lashrecse Aird, and I'm proud to be here this morning to discuss the retail marketplace legislation agreement that has been reached. I want to start by saying that to compromise and find agreement, leaders have to be open. They have to be willing to know the priorities, but understand that to reach agreement, you have to be flexible in the approach that is taken. And this agreement and this compromise absolutely reflects that. Too many have been affected by real harms for us to get here. And this agreement reflects responsible regulation that protects young people, gives Virginians a safe legal option, and avoids criminalizing adult use. I want to thank the governor. I want to thank Delegate Krizek, members of her administration, and the countless advocates that have been part of this conversation from the very beginning, and especially during the period of time where we were working together to find agreements and shared compromises. A safe, regulated retail market is not just about legalization. It is about public safety, consumer protection, and finally giving Virginians a legal marketplace that can compete with and displace the illicit market. And to start out with doing that, there are several things that need to occur. One, if our goal is to move consumers away from the illicit market, then the legal market has to be able to compete. And keeping the tax rate low at the start is not just an economic decision, it is a public safety strategy. So in this agreement, the state tax will begin at 6% when retail sales launch, and it will rise to 8% only after July 1, 2029, allowing the legal market to establish time to be structured before any increases take place. Further, a regulated market only works if it can actually be accessed by those who plan to use it. By restoring the retail cap to 350 locations, which is in this legislation, we are giving the legal market a real opportunity to meet demand across Virginia. But I would emphasize that 350 will not roll out all at once or right away. It will allow us to assess geographically and otherwise, the regulators, that is, how that should be rolled out throughout the Commonwealth. Further, like any compromise, we all share the belief that recriminalization is not the answer. We have decades of evidence showing that criminalization alone does not eliminate demand or end the illicit market. So we've taken several steps to ensure that this is the case. We ensure that several of the provisions for enforcement are strong and in place, but without criminalizing individuals. We include in this legislation, this compromise I mean, a $250 public consumption civil penalty, but this penalty is delayed until 2027. We had serious concerns about creating extreme new penalties that would not have meaningfully reduced the illicit market, but we believe this final framework strikes the right balance for enforcement mechanisms, but also in accountability, but also not harming those who just choose to participate in the market. Virginians deserve to know that they are buying items that are accurately labeled, properly tested, and solid and sold in a secure environment. And so this is especially important when we're talking about protecting young people. So in this compromise, we address intoxicating hemp products that have proliferated in gas stations, vape shops, and other retail settings. And we also make sure that there are very strict testing and labeling requirements maintained in the compromise. And so ultimately, this framework gives us a real path to move demand out of the illicit market and into a regulated system built around safety, accountability, and consumer protection. And I'll close my comments just by saying, if you don't hear anything else I say, please hear the fact that while this compromise allows us to have a strong foundation and framework, it's not the end of the conversation. You will notice throughout the compromise that there are several additional actions that the Joint Commission will continue to review and assess. But one thing we are confident in is that this is a very strong foundation and a very strong framework that takes into account data from across the country, best practices, public safety inputs, stakeholder inputs, and it will leave us in a much stronger place. Thank you, and I will now turn it over to my dear partner, Delegate Paul Krizek.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I want to thank the governor and, of course, my dear partner, Senator Aird. We've been working together, it seems like, for decades on this. And all my legislative colleagues, the stakeholders, the regulators, the Cannabis Control Authority, and, of course, Senate and House leadership. I want to emphasize that building the market correctly matters as much as launching it. And you heard that from Senator Aird. For decades, cannabis enforcement created real consequences for individuals, families, and documented disproportionate impact to communities. A legal marketplace should not lock those same communities out of the economic opportunity created by reform. So part of the responsible legalization that we have before you today is recognizing that those past cannabis policies did not affect every community equally. As we move into a legal marketplace, we have an obligation to make sure opportunity is not limited only to those who already have access to capital and political connections. So the goal really is to create a cannabis market that is responsible and one that is regulated, competitive, but most important, open to small businesses that deserve a real chance to succeed. And so what this compromise has is it restores a key investment into the Small Business Loan Fund. Specifically, 75% of license fee deposits in the first year will be directed into the Cannabis Equity Business Loan Fund. This is important because access to capital is one of the biggest barriers for small businesses entering a highly regulated marketplace. A license alone does not create a successful small business. Entrepreneurs need access to capital, technical support, and a fair shot to compete. Restoring this investment into the loan fund is a critical part of making this promise real. The compromise also preserves a pathway for micro businesses. It includes the authority to issue up to 100 microbusiness licenses by May 1st, 2027. Microbusinesses are essential because they help prevent the market from being dominated solely by the largest and best capitalized ventures. If we want a marketplace that reflects Virginia, then small businesses cannot be an afterthought. Micro businesses need a meaningful path into the market from the beginning. And this compromise also allows micro businesses to operate up to 2 locations under their license structure, giving the small operators more flexibility to build sustainable businesses. It also restores key regulatory language designed to protect impact licensees and small businesses from predatory investment structures. These protections matter because without them, larger entities can use equity or impact licensing as a backdoor for market capture. The compromise provides a 5-year holding period for impact licensees. So in the first 5 years, it can't be sold. It limits transfers on ownership changes. There's revocation tools if licenses are transferred in prohibited ways. Separate license requirements for separate places of business. Remember, equity cannot be something that exists on paper while the economic benefit is quietly transferred someplace else. These protections help ensure that the people and the small businesses these licenses are intended to support are the ones who actually benefit. There's also the Cannabis Impact Business Support Team, which is intended to help businesses and communities most affected by past cannabis enforcement. This team will give entrepreneurs guidance, technical assistance, and support as they navigate a complicated licensing and regulatory structure. It's a new industry, and we can't pretend that every business owner, every small business owner will enter it with the same resources, lawyers, accountants, and consultants. Support structures like this are essential if we want these businesses to survive beyond the licensing stage. The compromise preserves important regulatory structures, seed-to-sale tracking, product testing framework, licensing administration, reporting requirements related to ownership, equity, participation, and disciplinary actions. These tools are important because they create transparency and accountability as the market develops. A strong market is not just one that opens on time. It's one that can be monitored, adjusted, and held accountable as it grows. This compromise gives Virginia a path to launch a legal marketplace while protecting consumers, supporting small businesses, and creating real opportunity. It's not perfect, no compromise ever is. But we're committed to continue to work on this issue in the years to come through the Joint Commission. But this absolutely is a serious, workable framework that moves Virginia forward. Indeed, what we have now is a framework that protects consumers, supports legitimate businesses, gives localities clear rules, and provides meaningful enforcement tools. This final product reflects years of work, input from regulators and stakeholders, legislators and a governor, and a willingness by everyone involved to compromise in order to make this happen. Thank you, and I thank my colleagues behind me. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to work with everyone.
And now we'll open it up to questions. Before we do, I'll just want to address the elephant in the room. We did not intentionally dress alike. Just turns out that we've been doing so much coordination that we are mind melded.
Sure, Brian, you want to kick it off? I appreciate it. Morning, thanks for holding this. Public use penalty, are we worried about selective enforcement? That was kind of the grounds for concern when all this started. You want to address that for us? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I did mention this in my comments. We know that oftentimes public use enforcement can go towards our most vulnerable adult users. And we are mindful of the long-term effects that can occur. That is why I think it's important that we've also included a delay. This is not to go into effect until July 2027. And so I believe that leaves us an opportunity to continue to assess the type of impact that could have and give us enough cushion to pivot if necessary.
Governor, it feels like a lot of the things that the General Assembly passed are back in this bill. What were the things that were most important to you to get changed?
So I think through the negotiations and the discussions that we had, principally it was I put forth amendments, which is the process to a bill, and my amendments had particular goals. And so in the process that was ongoing since the end of session was a much larger discussion about these are the goals that I have. These were the ways and the frameworks and the legislative ways that I would actually meet those goals. Now that we are in this back and forth discussion, let's talk through what the goals are. So for example, on taxation, certainly I think that there's a revenue stream here when you look at what the taxation rates are for beer and wine or for spirits, right? There's great variation. And my counterparts had, and I think a correct worry that if the taxation rate began at so high that we might not have that initial conversion to be able to tamp out as aggressively the illicit market. So the compromise there was, well, we'll do as, and we dug into what other states had done. Other states had done a tiered process. The limitation that I had initially suggested as it related to the number of stores, as an example, and Senator Aird spoke to this briefly, was based on feedback from other states where they had opened the market widely. Many people had gone out to get licenses, started stores, and they had oversaturation and essentially failed businesses throughout the communities. And so the compromise there is, in my initial thought was we'll start with 200, and as we need more, we can address that. The discussion became, well, if my concern makes sense to, and not to speak for you all, my concern made sense to them, but we said, okay, well, let's start with an initial market of 350, but we will not release all of those licenses at the beginning. So it takes away the need for the legislature to come back, in a year's time or 2 years' time and increase that. But it puts the responsibility on the CCA to mete out those licenses, frankly, in a way that in the end, I'm actually happier with this as a solution than what I had suggested, because it allows for not just like a smaller amount at the beginning, but it actually makes clear that our expectation is that they will be released slowly or quickly, depending upon what the market can bear. And then on the public safety elements, a priority for me was really ensuring the safety of kids. And so the place where we clearly found common ground was in ensuring that the penalties are significant and clear for those who sell to underage young people, recognizing that it's an intoxicating substance. While recreational use is legal, we still want to make sure that we're keeping our kids safe. And so I would say that what we see in this compromise is ultimately every priority that I had, whether it's public safety, public health, kids safety, setting the marketplace up for success, and what had been a concern was how do we implement it this quickly. All of the goals that I had are met, and some of the discussions led us to meet them in a way then, when left to my own thought process, certainly, and the proposals I put forth in my amendments, you'll note that not all of these were reversions back to what had been in the enrolled bill. In some cases, it was a third option that met the shared goals.
Governor, Senator Delegate, some other things to clarify regarding the taxation rate. You mentioned the state. I recall the original proposal called for a range that localities could set. Is that still in there? And speak to that. And regarding the punishment, I know there were some concerns about, I think one of the ones was the transport being the penalties akin to a second-degree homicide sentencing. Is that still in there?
I'll do
Can you
the
speak to why or why not those items are?
Yeah.
The local tax rate is still there. So they had the option of going up to 3.5%, so 1 to 3.5%.
And as it pertains to the transport penalties, as the governor has mentioned, the compromise was we would focus on emphasizing enforcement of individuals that will bring harm to young people, so that enforcement recommendation is not there.
Delegate Krizek, you mentioned the Equity Business Loan Fund. Can you just break down who will qualify for funds through that fund? You have to be, I remember there was language about someone being in a marginalized community. How will somebody qualify for the money that's being put into that fund?
So one of the things you'll notice in this bill, we've delayed it till next year for next session, is the actual how the money's being spent. I talked a little bit about the 75%, and that's in this. But the rest of the buckets, as you mentioned, the equity fund, we're going to be working on that. Our commission is going to continue to work on that. It was too big an issue really to tackle in this short period of time. I think we could have gotten there if we had more time, but we will have more time, and so we'll be working on that. But it's the same exact structure that we had from the session.
And I think you are specifically making reference to those, I believe, 5 or 6 criterions that are listed in the legislation. Those have not changed. We were very intentional and deliberate about making sure that the impact licensees are those individuals that we would consider to have been impacted by past cannabis laws. And so that criteria is still there.
Thank you. Bill?
Governor, Delegate Senator Bill Atkinson, Progress Index in Petersburg. A question about the 350 stores. I know that it's still probably being hammered out, being worked out. Is the template to be that the 350 would sort of be equally distributed around the state, or would it kind of be where the demand is?
Thank you so much. We have been very intentional in the compromise to give that power to the regulator. That language specifically allows ongoing market analysis to occur. So when the governor says they will not be all rolled out immediately, the regulator will be very intentional and deliberate about ensuring that geographically and otherwise there is balance throughout the Commonwealth as to where qualified licensees are agreed upon.
Quick question for you guys. I mean, this is great, announcement and everything, but how do you get the Senate on board at the end of the day and get this through with everything where we are right now?
I guess since I'm the senator in the room, I will say at 9:30 there is a Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee meeting. I believe that the Senate is very much interested in also getting us a budget, and that we have shared goals on how to get there. And I believe part of what today's meeting will be about will be to reveal that commitment and the proposal of, I'm gonna make an assumption there, but the proposal on how we get there.
We have time for one more. Dave?
You mentioned the equity fund. Governor, in your amendments, you removed that. Can you talk about why that was made, why the decision was made, and why that was added back into it?
So I didn't remove it. What we had done was put money towards the general fund, no removal of the equity fund, and my amendments were less prescriptive in terms of percentages of where dollars would go. Priorities, I think shared priorities being education across the board, both early childhood, K through 12, with also a focus on community valuable programs like reentry programs, employment training programs, and so the compromise language I think still continues to meet those goals.